What's up? This is the Panasonic RX-6400, which is also called the RXA2 in some markets, and the RX-A5 below it. They're both from the early 1980s. Let's compare them to the typical boombox from that same time period, which is something like this. Okay, there is no comparison, all right? Don't get me wrong, this is a good quality radio for that time period, but these would just blow it away. They can be heard for blocks, no contest. So how are these two models different? Well, obviously this one's more modern. You can tell it came out at least 2 or 3 years after this one. I'm going to guess maybe 1983. But this one's a bit bigger. It is 17 inches tall, while this one is 16 inches tall. Why the difference? Well, they put the battery compartment on the front on this model, while that model managed to fit the battery compartment on the back to save space. Both of these models fold up like a suitcase and can be carried via handles on the top. And you know, it'd be really nice if you could carry them open like this down the street. It'd look pretty sweet, but unfortunately you can't. You have to collapse them in order to carry them. The difference is this model can be held with only one hand. This one requires both hands to carry because it comes with an additional piece to carry your cassette tapes. And unfortunately, you have to attach this to one of the speakers. That's why it takes two hands. But you know, both of these models weigh more than 40 pounds anyway, so you're not going to do much carrying. They're more intended for outdoor, like courtyards, patios, pool parties, stuff like that. And they suck down the power. All right, if you were to use batteries with these things, those batteries would only last about a half hour. They're intended to be plugged into the wall, to be honest. Which one sounds the best? Well, I'll do a demo in a moment, but let's talk about the speakers first. This one has 8-inch woofers and 2.5-inch tweeters. So it's got a total of 4 speakers, while this one has a total of 10. But the interesting thing is, only 6 of those 10 speakers are powered, including the tweeter and the 2 outer woofers on each side. The 2 inner woofers on each side are actually passive radiators, so they don't receive any power, they just resonate. It's definitely an interesting setup and it looks really nice, but personally I prefer the sound of this model because the bass is deeper and warmer. So if you listen to a lot of modern hip hop with that 808 bass or movie soundtrack type of music, I think you'll prefer this model, but that's just my opinion. Here, let's do a little demo, little 80s music here, starting with the A5. All right, let's switch it. Okay, I don't know if you'll be able to tell the difference because I'm just recording with a cell phone. So, but I can tell the difference. This has more bass. Period. End of story. This one might sound a little crisper depending on your perspective, but personally, the bass on this one sounds more like mid-range. But that's just personal opinion. Let's zoom in and compare the features. Okay, this one has a couple of old school needle meters, which can be lit up with this button here. And that same button lights up the tuner needle. It's also got a tape program sensor, which is basically music search. And what that means is if you are playing a tape, you can push this button to choose the song that you want to advance to before pressing fast forward. Okay? The rest of these controls are pretty standard for, most boom boxes. But the difference is you go down here and it's got some special controls here. It's got input level controls for 2 microphones, a guitar, and another auxiliary component, usually a keyboard. It's also got echo controls and adjustable tape speed. Now, these controls are replicated on this model because you can see it's got the same input level controls there. It's got the same echo control and it's got adjustable tape speed. The big difference is this one has two cassette decks, and therefore they gave it some extra controls for dubbing. They also gave it a 5-band equalizer instead of a bass and treble knob. I'm personally not a fan of stuff like this. It's just more stuff to break, but that's what they decided to do on this model. The nice thing about this model is that the tape decks have a nice metal backplate, which is just a nice cosmetic detail. Also, the meters on this model are LED instead of needles. Let's see if we can compare them. Okay. So they're green and red, which is nice. And this feature right here is the same as the one above. It's basically a music search, allowing you to choose the song that you want to advance to. Okay. Finally, it has a dial light, which can be left on permanently by pushing this button, and it stays on permanently. Unfortunately, the bulb is burned out on this one, so I can't show you, but it looks nice. So let's compare the specs. This is the A5, and the power consumption is 100 watts on AC, and it is 15 watts per channel RMS. While this model the consumption is a little bit less. It's 90 watts on AC, but it's the same 15 watts per channel RMS on DC or batteries. So on paper, they sound like they're the same, but they definitely sound different. And besides, these numbers are really meaningless, to be honest, okay? Because when they tell you watts per channel, they don't tell you what kind of input source they were using. They don't tell you what kind of input levels they were using when they measured that. And they don't tell you what kind of speakers they were using. So those numbers are meaningless. Bottom line is deeper bass, more bling. All right? I mean, it's got more chrome, more speakers. It just looks nicer, in my opinion. But like I say, personal taste. All right? Thanks.